I hate it when she answers my question with a question. Without thinking, she does it every fucking time. It doesn't matter what the question or answer is, she answers a question with a question. She does it to everything. Megan, what's for dinner? Does it look like I cooked? Megan, where should I move the chair? Harold, where did I say I wanted it? Snap. Megan, you look sexy in that teddy. How about we make the sheets? What, don't I look good in flannel pajamas? No matter the subject, my questions can always be answered with a question. The only time she failed to answer my question with a question was the last question I asked her. What kind of question is that? 6 simple words with a question mark, but the hardest question to answer is, why do I want to stay? She didn't have an answer to that question. The bad thing was that I knew she couldn't answer it. Cheaters never can. They can talk typical nonsense, but when it comes down to it, they know the answer. You just have to make them see the truth. I should have known from the beginning that it would come to this. My marriage was doomed from the beginning. I should have just listened to my father and followed the rules. My father taught me the 10 rules a man should live by. 1. Life is fun until you blow it. 2. Work is only hard when you don't want to do it. 3. If you want to know what your wife will look like in 20 years, look at her mother. 4. It takes a strong woman not to be her mother. 5. Friends are for a dozen, but true brothers are forever. 6. Never give your wife all your money. 7. No cheated woman is worth half, no matter what the judge says. 8. Appearance fades, but beauty is eternal. 9. If he looks like a duck, walks and quacks like a duck, he's a fucking duck. 10. No bitch is worth dying or going to jail for, so always plan, plot, figure out the best way to get revenge, and don't leave fingerprints. My dad always said that if my mom disappeared and her purse was left behind, it was one of 2 things. She ran away or he chased her away. If he chased her away, then the purse was left behind because he was keeping her busy. My dad always said loud enough for my mom to hear him, "Son, she's going to walk away with what she came into this marriage with and nothing more." I always wondered what made a man so hateful. It was one of the little life lessons I learned later in life. I've never liked to tell my life story, so I won't. But I will tell you the gist of it. I was born in North Texas to a good family, and my dad kicked my ass every day, when I deserved it and sometimes when I didn't. My mom was the backbone of our family. My sisters Kelly and Ann were always there for me and my little brother Carlton. Carlton is a nerd, but overall a good brother. And then there's Megan. I met Megan in 8th grade. She had big teenage boobs, and it was love at first sight for me. We didn't date until my 2nd year in college. From that point on, she became my girlfriend. If you're wondering why we didn't date for so long, ask her dad. The man was like Old Yeller, you know, the dog from the classic movie. If any man came within a foot of his daughter, he barked like a damn bloodhound. It took 3 years for him to let me sit on the porch of their house, and then another year just to call her. And then, before she could ask him if I could walk with her, it always sounded like he was eavesdropping on the phone. He would yell, "No!" So believe me when I tell you that he surprised the hell out of me when I asked permission to marry Megan. He said, "Yes, son, you can. Son, son." The bastard just called me son. Over the past 6 years, I've been called a bastard, a fucking retard, a fucking moron, a dumbass fool, and finally the king of assholes. But now I'm his son. Deal with that shit. For me, married life was great. Our honeymoon was fucking great. I was 22 at the time. By the time she was done with me, I needed a B12 shot. Life with Megan wasn't boring. For the next 15 years, life was hard but good. We worked, we played, we made love, we had kids. 3 children, Tommy, Jessica, and Paul, our little angels. For those who don't have kids, I will tell you that kids have a built-in pussy radar. Anytime I or Miss is in a mood and things are getting close to breaking up, their radar goes off. More often than not, I've only managed to get one breast out of her bra before the knock on the door sounds. I can't count the number of times I had to go to the hospital for a 4-hour erection. It wasn't until our 25th year that things took a turn for the worse. The only thing that kept me from leaving the country was the kids. 2 of the 3 children had left home, and the 3rd was on his way out. Tommy was attending Florida State University. Jessica was attending UT Knoxville, and Paul had just graduated and was about to head to Gainesville to become a Gator. But, being a man-child, he just had to party heartily on his last night at home. Paul acted like a jackass and tried to drive home drunk. He hit a pole and ended up in the hospital. He was in critical condition. Megan and I rushed to the hospital. His spleen had been removed. His lung was damaged and he needed a kidney. His kidney was damaged and he needed a donor immediately. The doctor asked if he could do a blood test to see if I was a match. Megan looked at us strangely as if trying to figure something out. Then she said, "Shit, shit, shit, you don't have to worry, he's not Paul's father." I stepped back and looked at her. I wanted to grab her, but the doctor stopped me and told me not to do it now. I asked her what the hell she was talking about. The doctor said she needed to bring her father here to save Paul. I turned and walked away. Then I stopped, turned around, dropped my wedding ring on the floor, and walked into the room to see Paul. I couldn't even think about the fact that he wasn't my son at this point. I just wanted him to get the help he needed. When Megan and the doctor entered the room, I turned and walked out. The doctor grabbed my hand and told me I had to stay, because Paul needed both of us right now, so I stayed. Later that night, Paul's father came in. About an hour later, my brother Carlton showed up. I was about to tell him what was going on when I suddenly saw that blood had been drawn. Paul's father was Megan's brother-in-law, my brother Carlton. Then he, the doctor, and Megan left the room. I got the answer. Carlton came in trying to explain what had happened. I left the room. It was too complicated for me. When I got out to the waiting area, Carlton's wife Abby was sitting with her head in her hands, crying. I didn't know what she was crying about, Paul or what she had learned about Carlton and Megan. Either way, it didn't matter. Both were bloody problems. The doctor came over and asked if he could talk to me. He told me I had to be courageous and be there for Paul and Megan. They would need me. I asked him, how do I do that? You're such a big damn man. Tell me, how can I be around this slut? Did she just tell me my son is my nephew? She's been sleeping with my brother for who knows how long. But we know at least 18 years because Paul is his son. And what am I supposed to do with Carlton? I can't call him my brother anymore. What kind of brother would sleep with his brother's wife and leave him to raise the kids? But since you're a doctor, maybe you can offer me something. Maybe you can get me some whore spotting glasses. Do they have a pill after an affair to erase that whore and my brother from my life? Maybe you know a way to erase the whore from my memory? I thought I didn't. So get away from me and try to fix Paul. You can't help my marriage or my life. Doc shook his head, then turned around and walked back to Paul's room. I walked over to Abby and asked what Carlton had told her. She said that all 3 of my children were his. Carlton said that Megan had told him that I was infertile. This was new to me. How would she know? I had only been in the hospital for one thing, and I was 10 years old at the time. Something was going on, and I needed to find answers. As early as 11:30 a.m., the doctor told us that Paul was going to be fine. Carlton's kidney was a perfect match. I was headed for the exit when Megan and the doctor ran up to me just as the door was closing. Megan wanted to grab me, but the doctor stopped her. I would have spit in her face. Megan asked where I was going. What about our son Paul? I got a laugh. Our son? I turned around and walked away. I got home around 2:30 that afternoon, stopping by Home Depot to pick up a couple sets of locks. I changed the locks on the house, then I started packing Megan's clothes. I had time to pack 4 bags before the first phone call rang. It was her dad, who wanted to come over and talk before I did something stupid. Like, what did I ask him to do? Come on, Dad, what reason could I have to do something stupid? Before he could say a word, I slammed the phone down. As I packed Megan's things, I thought about Paul and everything that had happened. It brought me back to long discussions in psychology class. Nature and nurture, whether DNA made Paul my son. Absolutely, in my heart, he was mine. From the first moments of his life, from his first steps, from the first time he caught a soccer ball, his first fight, his first date, his first kiss, talking to him about the birds and the bees, all of those things made him my son, didn't they? But when he really needed a father, the truth was that I wasn't one. When he needed blood and kidneys, which I would have gladly given him, I couldn't. The moment he really needed help, I could only sit by because Megan turned out to be a cheating whore. The moment the doctor said he needed a kidney, he was not my son. My family name will continue, but what will happen to my branch of the family tree? There will be no Harold Paxton branch. Of course, there were 7 sprouts on the Carlton branch, 4 children by Abby and 3 children by Megan, which made Carlton the family stud. I had to stop thinking for a while because I was giving myself an indulgence. I walked over to the refrigerator, grabbed a beer, and sat down in the chair. I was just turning on the TV when I heard cars pulling up to the house. I didn't move. I sat there drinking my beer and listening to them banging on the door. It sounded like there were 4 or 5 people there. They had been knocking for about 10 minutes when Megan pulled up. I think it was my dad who told her to open the door with her key. I bet they were really surprised when the key didn't work. I finished my beer, grabbed my gun from the table, walked over and unlocked the door. I asked my father what they wanted. My father asked, "Why?" Because I had a gun. I told him it was to scare off the uninvited guests. I asked them again, "What do they want?" My father was the spokesman. He asked if they could come in and talk to me. I replied that sure, but only if Carlton and Megan weren't with them. Megan was sitting on the porch crying, and Carlton was about to show me what a man he was until he heard me pull back the bolt on my Desert Eagle. I think that's when they realized it wasn't going the way they thought it would. For the next 2 hours, they laid out everything they knew except for Abby and me. I couldn't believe that these people were my relatives. Abby understood how Megan felt. My father, the man who taught me how to deal with a cheating wife, now wanted me to live with one. Strange how grandparents can cloud your judgment. Son, she did what she had to do to give you the family you wanted. You need to calm down and understand how Megan felt. I didn't understand, and I wasn't going to. I was done. Screw them all. I will never understand why a woman who wants a child has to go and make love to achieve her goal. Is there any difference for a man who wants a child with his wife only to find out she can't give it to him? Oops, I forgot that only women are allowed to cheat under these rules. It seems only another woman can understand what it's like to not be able to have a child. I guess men don't want families. They don't want to watch their child grow in their significant other's belly. They don't get the joy of taking care of their loved one, their other half, for a lifetime. I guess I'm not a man then because I'm not supposed to cause pain. They talked nonsense, and it was exactly nonsense about how I needed to think about children and how to keep my family together. They told me crap about how a woman doesn't feel complete if she can't have children, and that women are emotional beings and need to procreate. And then they started telling me that it was a blessing for everyone. That's when I lost my temper and told them all to get the hell out. She's a fucking cheating whore, and she bore my brother children. That's a blessing. If it's a blessing, then I need to change my beliefs. Turns out my mom told her I couldn't have kids because I got yellow fever when I was 10. She told Megan but forgot to tell me, which mom. After I put them all out, about an hour later, the kids showed up. They told me that Megan had called them, but told them to come to her parents' house first. They got home first. I spent the next hour explaining to them what had happened, holding nothing back. Jessica didn't believe it. She called and made an appointment to get blood for DNA testing. Then she was going to meet with Megan. Tommy said it didn't matter because I was his father no matter what. But he went along with Jessica's plan because he needed to know. The next day, we all went to the hospital and checked Paul's condition, and then had blood drawn for testing. After that, Jessica went to Megan's, and Tommy and I watched Paul for a few hours, and then went back to the house. Needless to say, the next few days were very tense in the house. On the 3rd day, we got a call from the hospital. The results had come back. It turned out that mine was only Jessica's. Tommy got angry and left because that meant Megan had been a cheating whore since the 2nd year of our marriage. Not 2 years later, she got pregnant with Tommy, 18 months later. I filed for divorce the same day the results came back. I gave my attorney the DNA results. I didn't want 50-50, I wanted everything. You see, I'm a firm believer in equal rights. When a man cheats, everyone yells, "Give it to the cleaners." Don't get mad, everyone gets it. But when a man cheats, it's, "What did you do?" Are you sure maybe it's hormones? You need to help her, not divorce her. I can't tell you how many friends I lost in the days that followed. I lost my parents and relatives too because they knew everything. At the last meeting, Megan asked for 30 minutes to herself. After 25 years of marriage, 23 years, and 4 months of lies, but who's counting? I could have sat down and listened to another lie. Even at our last meeting, everything was in question. "Harold, haven't I been a good wife to you? Harold, think about it. Aren't you missing something? After all the love we've shared, do you really want to give up on us? I mean, really? Harold, why do you want to leave? I gave her 30 minutes, but at the end I asked her one question. It wasn't a hard question, but it was the one question she didn't have an answer for. I spent the next 10 minutes summarizing everything that had happened in the last 2 years of our marriage. Then I asked Megan, why do I want to stay? I then got up and left. The divorce was obtained 90 days later. No alimony on my part, no child support, nothing. Megan ended up paying me $350 a month in child support for 5 years. There was no way to put the house on the market. I gave the house to Jessica. I lived there rent-free. Speaking of our finances, I didn't have a job, so there was no paycheck. I quit the day before the DNA results came back. She cheated on me for 20-plus years, and some judge was going to make me pay her for it. I had no money left in the bank. I used it to pay Paul's medical bills. There's nothing left out of nothing. The only good thing was that Abby stopped by to let me know that my parents, along with Megan and Carlton, were planning to ambush me to talk to them so I could talk to them and be a family again. Abby and I spent the next 3 hours plotting and playing games. Carlton was stupid because Abby has 38 D-die. I won't tell you what else she had because I wanted to use it again. But by the end of the day, Paul, Tommy, and I went on a cruise during their visit. When we returned from the cruise, Jessica informed me that my attorney was ready to file a lawsuit against Carlton for 23 years of non-payment of child support. We were asking for $350,000 for each child. College, cars, and all, after all, kids are expensive. As soon as the suit was filed, Abby filed for divorce. I didn't adopt Paul or Tommy. They didn't want me to. They knew I was a father, if not by blood, then by love, to be there for them. Paul said he couldn't make me a real cuckold just because his mother was a hellcat and he wasn't. Tommy agreed. It's been 10 years, I'm 62, I have kids 5 and 10 years old. My wife, Abby, is 52. Yes, I said to Abby, I'll never admit it, but I like spending Carlton alimony on nice things for my kids, and no, I didn't marry Abby for revenge. I'm not the least bit offended that our relationship is spilling out in Carlton's face. Megan told Jessica that she would wait until the end of time and get me back someday. Even Jessica laughs at that. My parents punch holes in Jessica and Abby's ears. Please let Harold come to us. We'll be dead soon, and he'll hate himself for not being here. Hating myself for missing out on the lives of those who wanted to deceive me by calling themselves my loved ones is unlikely. I'll consider forgiving them on my deathbed. But that's unlikely. After all, they are 80 and 82. Plus, they have Carlton. I have to go. The kids are staying the night with Jessica and Paul. I've been waiting 30 minutes for Abby to get back. She went to put them in the car. If I still have that burning incentive 4 hours from now, screw the emergency room, call the coroner.